with the Linux world still being mostly community driven, we still get to have a bit of fun here and there. And one of those bits of fun are project mascots. Now, you don't see this anywhere near as much from new modern projects, but you've got your old school mascots like Wilbur from the GIMP project, Puffy from OpenBSD, and of course, Tux from Linux, or Xenia if you so prefer. The only recent project I can think of with a mascot, and I would like to see more of them, so if you want to make a project mascot, go do it, let me know about it, is the Anubis mascot, which I don't think has a name. Z, if you are watching this, give it a name, let me know what it is, and I will make sure that people know the name of the Anubis mascot, even if it's literally just gonna be Anubis. And, there's another one I do want to talk about. That being the mascot of the Gentoo project. Technically, not an official mascot, but Larry the Cow. It's been in use for so long that it's basically the de facto official, and even though it's technically not official, it's used in so many official things anyway. Look, it basically is. And as we talk a bit about the history of Larry, I thought I should show you one of the most important issues related to Larry, something that is a key part of the lore of Larry, the history of Larry, that you may not know about. Larry cannot be a cow. This was reported back in 2003. A cow is female, a bull is male, with female and male being spelt incorrectly, adding more to the fun. I'm gonna assume this person is ESL. That's the only thing that explains how this mistake was made. And considering this was 2003, I don't think this is the joke they were going for. But Reproducible didn't try. This has double meaning. And if you don't know what the double meaning is, then you are way too young for me to explain the double meaning. But here are the steps to reproduce anyway. You go to the Gentoo website, you go to the About section in the navigation bar, and then you look at the poster and you see Larry the Cow. Actual results, you see that Larry is a cow. Expected results, Larry should have been a bull. Also, again, spelling Larry incorrectly. Now, this is unforgivable, because you can literally just copy the name of Larry. How did you manage to make this mistake? Copy-paste was a thing in 2003, and you would have done it correctly. This is the most important piece of Larry lore you will ever see. The second most important piece is where Larry came from. And thankfully, the Gentoo wiki has an entire section dedicated to artwork, and the first section on here is about Larry the Cow. So Larry was first introduced by Daniel Robbins back in 2002. If you don't know who Daniel is, this is the creator of Gentoo. The last time you would have heard about him was working on the Funtoo project, which was a popular Gentoo-based distribution, which has now gone kind of into hobby mode, and I don't really know what's going on at this point. Last time I spoke to him, he'd gone and got like a regular full-time job and kind of moved out of the tech space, so you know, he's kind of like doing his own thing now. But this is the guy. This is the Gentoo guy. This is the reason Gentoo is here. And this is also the reason that Larry was even introduced to the Gentoo project in the first place. But Larry wasn't first introduced as a mascot of the project. Instead, Larry was a representation of people working on Gentoo, and not the only one. You had these other icons being used as well. This was representing the development team behind Gentoo. Not just Larry, but all of these icons here originate from someone known as Ethan Dunham of Fonthead Design from a package called Fontheads. Now, this page is long since gone on the internet now, but you can find it available on a web archive. So besides just Larry here, you have all of these other ones. You have a duck and what, fox? I don't know what this, mole maybe? I don't know. A pig, a monkey, a bunch of other ones. This very stylized sort of art. And Larry is sitting right here. At this point, This was not Larry. This was just a generic sort of cow in this guy's art style. But the Larry that you know about, the Larry that isn't just a cow head, but also has a body, the body was drawn by a separate person. This is Matteo Pescarin, otherwise known as Peach from the project. This was drawn in November of 2004. And this is how we got to the problem that we have today, or better yet, the problem that existed in 2003, because Larry hasn't always been the same design. The original version of Larry had both horns and udders, but the udders are nowhere to be seen on the more modern designs because those were later removed. Now we just have Larry with the horns, and, you know, we are missing something. There is no giant cowcock, so maybe add that in. Anyway, this redesign, and the reason why the issue even existed in the first place, is people are arguing about whether or not Larry was a female cow or a male cow. Now, is this important? Not even remotely. However, it did get an issue made, and it did have some discussion in it. And this response is golden, perfectly taking advantage of the spelling mistakes in the original post. Larry had udder implant surgery and gender enrichment surgery by a world specialist in non-anthropomorphic gender challenges. Since his transformation, Larry prefers to be known as Larry, and I'm encouraged that you have shown him the proper respect in this regard. Larry was unsatisfied with his life as a mailman. Wherever he went, people would say, "There goes that four-legged mailman." But because he was tormented by his own gender identity, he always imagined that they said, "There goes that four-legged male man." This situation is what drove Larry to undergo several operations and emerge as Larry. Larry has since quit his job as a mailman and spends his time hacking on the Linux kernel or committing patches to Portage or Portage or Portage. I have no idea how to actually pronounce this. Every time I say it, someone tries to correct me on it. Welcome to the modern world. Cloning of animals, sex change, etc. are daily routines nowadays. Gentoo is a modern distribution. And for some reason, I don't know why, even though people are obviously having some fun here, one person decided, I'm gonna take this issue as something super serious, super literal, and post the dictionary definition of a cow. The mature female of a cattle of the genus Bos. The mature female of other large animals such as whales, elephants, or moose. Or a domesticated bovine of either sex or any age. See here, it's not false to call a male bovine a cow. Obviously, because this was a joke issue, not real. This was just someone having a bit of fun. I assume this was someone having a bit of fun and not actually seriously bothered about it. This ended up being marked as resolved, won't fix. And every so often, people do come back to this because there was a comment here in 2007, then in 2022, then 2024. Every so often, because the comments haven't been locked, people make their way to this issue. People say something new here. I love that projects occasionally get these random, pointless issues. And yes, if you're getting them all the time, that would be a giant waste of time and, you know, don't go and do that. Once a decade, when an issue like this appears, it's just like a nice change of pace. It's kind of like that KDE issue where someone tried to implement the LinkedIn shortcut from Windows, which if you don't know is it Control-Shift-Alt-Windows L. There might be another modifier key in there, but it's like a 5 or a 6 key button press. This is basically the same sort of thing. It's just having some fun with it. It's just doing something dumb, and years later, some random person on the internet is going to make a video on it. Now, this issue is so important to Larry's history that it gets a mention on the Larry the Cow wiki page on the Gentoo wiki. If we go down to the personal life section, in the past, there have been discussions over Larry the Cow's name. Since Larry is a male, he has no udders. Some have argued that he might more appropriately be called Larry the Bull. A bug was filed discussing this, and it was decided to take no action, so Larry the Cow he is. Also, there are other versions of Larry, like this one right here, that has the Gentoo logo on it. Now, over the years, this stylized cow head, which became Larry the Cow, became more and more attached to the Gentoo project, where if you recognize this logo, you are going to recognize it from Gentoo as opposed to being from Ethan Dunham of Fonthead Design. So come 2011, on the request of the Gentoo Foundation, Fonthead Design Inc. gave written permission to use the original artwork of Larry the Cow under the Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike 2.5 license. Originally, it was okay for them to use it, but it was licensed under the EULA of Fonthead Design. So it had some additional restrictions with it, with how it could be commercially used, and that's fine if it's just gonna be a little logo, a little mascot. But the Gentoo Foundation wanted to have more control over this icon where it could be used in more ways, it could be redesigned in more ways, it could be used basically however they wanted, and being under the Creative Commons license made that considerably easier. At this point, 2.5 is a really old version of this version of Creative Commons, but it still totally does the job for what Gentoo is trying to do here. So I showed you this version of Larry that has the Gentoo logo on him. There have been various other iterations of Larry as well, like this one right here, the more simplified Larry, and also redesigns of Larry's head, where it's changing the line work in slightly different ways to make it more suitable for various different environments. As for that simplified logo, that was by Manuel Nefarious Zwen. How do I Zwens? That's as close as we're gonna get. And Larry's also appeared in various other forms as well, like this ripple icon here and a bunch of others. Also, there are other unofficial Gentoo logos as well, like this one, which is adorable. And I'm sure you could probably merge the two together. If somebody wants to do that and make a cute anime version of Larry, please send it my way on email or Twitter or something. I want to see it. Make it happen. So here's the thing with the Larry name and how you can deal with the problem of Larry the Cow and never have had to think about the problem. So, even though it's not important whatsoever, what you could have said is Larry the Cow isn't Larry the Cow, with the cow being a descriptor of what Larry is. Larry the Cow is Larry's official legal name. That's the first way to do it. I think this is considerably more fun. The other way is that Larry the Cow could be Larry and then the cow as like a title or a nickname. So it's still Larry the Cow and you never have to think about it again. Honestly, from time to time, I really enjoy doing these completely inconsequential videos. They're not timely in any way. They're not important in any way. But I still just want to randomly dig into things that are happening in the Linux world. And maybe somebody cares. But probably not. Anyway, if you liked the video for some reason, go like the video. If you really like the video and you want to become one of these amazing people over here, also go subscribe. That'll be cool as well. Check out the Patreon, Scribes, the LiberaPay linked in the description down below. That's going to be it for me, and more.